anyway, this is my name, obviously, and I have a Bachelor's of Science in Nursing. I am a registered nurse, certified in maternal newborn nursing, and I'm a board-certified lactation consultant. I'm also a registered lactation consultant. What does that mean? That means I am a registered nurse with my bachelor's, and I have gone on to take an exam that certified me in mom-baby nursing, and then I went on to take an international exam for the lactation. Just fancy for saying I'm a lactation consultant who's certified. Okay. Any questions or anything so far? All right.
I have a question. What type of experience do you have to have before you go for your certification?
To go for the IBCLC part, there's a pathway. You have to go on the ILCA website to look it up, ILCA. There's so many hours if you're a registered nurse, or because even a dietitian can become internationally certified. So it depends on which pathway you're going. If you're a nurse, if you're a dietitian, so many hours of hands-on experience, and so many CEUs as well. And there's a lot of really great workshops constantly all over the country, and just in this area. Well, yeah, was it Wednesday? Tuesday. There's one day this week is terrible of all the ones and the other. There was Niels Bergman was here he's from South Africa, and he is out into the kangaroo care. I'm sure you guys have heard of the kangaroo care. And I've heard him speak before. Actually, I've had dinner with him before when I was president of Kentucky Lactation Improvement Coalition. But it's amazing the people that we bring into the area as well as right around us. And it was an excellent all-day workshop. Both he and his wife spoke, and most of it is he has zero tolerance for removing the baby from the mother's chest. I mean, he goes into NICUs and everything, and he showed how to kangaroo the babies. It was amazing. But anyway, so there is, the CEUs are available as well as getting in. I don't want to get too far off track here. But if you have more questions, feel free to get a hold of me. I'm at the hospital. I do work every weekend, Saturday and Sunday. I work during the week if it's busy. But I'm a Baylor nurse. I do 12 Saturday and Sunday. And I don't mind, give a call and talk to me if you have any questions afterwards, or if you need my contact information, maybe I can give it to you. And I certainly don't mind. I'm all for education, and I'm all for helping moms. Have I worked with any of you here? There's usually somebody in the group. Was it fun? Did we have fun? Yeah, breastfeeding. Trying to make it fun. I love it. When I had my kids, I have 4 children, and my baby just turned 29. So I am a grandma. I have 4 grandchildren. But if I just getting out of bed, sometimes it's a struggle for everybody. But if I get and make the difference in one person's life today, it's worth getting out of bed. And that's why I look at my job. I love my job. I love doing what I do. It wasn't available when I had my children. And I had not so nice experience personally with breastfeeding. And I don't ever want anyone to have to go through what I went through. So if I can make a difference in anybody's life today, even here today and talking, it's so worth it. I treat every patient as though they're my child. Used to be as my, same age, but now I treat every patient as though they're my child. And then it's my grandchild. It's very important to me. Okay. However, again, you can see I'm biased, and I know there's an alternative way to feed babies. Okay, any other questions? I don't know if I answered your question, but I gave you a little bit more information too. But follow that pathway. If you have any more questions, give me a holler. And there's ways of finding out about these classes here and there. And I mean, bringing in speakers from around the world that are excellent. It's exciting. I love to learn too. Any other questions? All right. Okay, American Academy of Pediatrics statement in 2012. They just keep kind of going back and reviewing the same statement. They have reworded some of it, And they do recommend breastfeeding for the first, for about 6 months, exclusive, and then followed by continued breastfeeding for 1 year. But the biggest thing with this is, that infant nutrition should be considered. You like my high-tech pointer? Yeah. What can I say? The batteries never run out. But advantages of the infant nutrition should be considered a public health issue and not a lifestyle choice. Because there are so many benefits, and for mom, baby, and the whole community and environment, they do recommend it. And then they go on to say, you know, for the first year and longer is mutually desired by mother and baby. And mutually desired, you know, some people think, oh, 12 months, you know, that's an awful long time, you know. And then there's many, many people that do it for 4 and 5 years, and people think, ew. However, you know, by the time they're 2, 3, they're only having once or twice a day, if that. They are usually just at bedtime, and there's still benefits for mom, and there's still benefits for the baby. And again, that's what we're going to talk about today. And there are rare contraindications to breastfeeding. Less than 1% of the population have insufficient breast tissue to, yes, did you have a question?
Finish up.
Less than 1% of the population has insufficient breast tissue to breastfeed. Most everybody can breastfeed, other than that, less than 1%. Most of the other is usually interactions that didn't carry out well, or some kind of something within the first 6 weeks that wasn't followed up on. It's not that they couldn't. There's significant problems in the beginning, establishing volume, maintaining volume, and there's a lot of different beliefs. So it's changing our society and believing as a whole.
Does breastfeeding provide some level of birth control?
Some. It is not a birth control 100%. Well, there isn't really anything that's 100% as far as birth control, other than not doing it all. The more the baby is at rest, once a pacifier is introduced, that right there goes down your birth control. It's exclusive breastfeeding, so all the suckling needs to be done at breast to have some effect.
Something to do with the hormonal balance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so just one pacifier in the baby's mouth that's not exclusive, and it decreases percentage of birth control. But it is not a method of birth control. A lot of people think it is. Did that answer your question? Yes. Don't rely on it.
No, I wasn't sure how effective it was. I mean, it seemed like it would make sense from an evolutionary point of view. You don't want to be feeding one kid and then all of a sudden, boom.
You can be breastfeeding and get pregnant, and you can continue to breastfeed as long as you're not a high risk throughout your pregnancy, and you can breastfeed your new baby and your other child. That's true tandem nursing, is breastfeeding 2 babies of different ages. And your milk will revert back to what the youngest baby needs, but will have enough volume for both babies. Our bodies are amazing. I could go on with it all day if we wanted to talk. Okay. So I answer your question? All right. Anything else before we continue on? All right. Artificial human milk, also known as formula. So the benefits of formula, formula companies attempt to duplicate, but breast milk is ever changing, like going into tandem nursing. To get pregnant and have another baby, you know, with formula, you can't find, you know, colostrum. And as your baby grows, your milk changes with exactly what your baby needs. So you have a baby that's 2 months old, 6 months old. You don't go to the store and look at the can and it says for 2-month-old, for 6-month-old. It's for what your baby needs at that point in time. And then if you have a second baby and you continue to breastfeed, is going to accommodate the youngest. And again, there'll be enough volume for both of them. So formula companies are attempting to duplicate it, and just as they try to figure it out, then you go to a different month, and the breast milk is a different, whole different chain. So they can't duplicate it, and you would have so many different cans, and you actually try to do it on a monthly like that. Medical concerns that may prevent breastfeeding for some women. It may be too difficult or stressful for their lifestyle. There can be some medical concerns on the mom's part that she may have not be able to breastfeed because of a combination of medications. Very rare. There are a few medications that you should not breastfeed while you're on. But for the most part, most medications are just somewhat compatible with breastfeeding. Dr. Thomas Hale spent his entire life investigating medication in mother's milk, and he writes a book every other year. And he has medications, their molecular size, their half-lives, and all that stuff, protein binding, and all that's important to see if it will transfer over to the baby. So there are some medical concerns, and again, that less than 1% that has insufficient breast tissue. Or, I mean, if the mom just can't. I have a stressful life, you know, I'm out of town a lot, I just can't take the baby with me, whatever it may be, you know, besides just the actual medical. So that's convenience. Either parent or caregiver can feed the baby at any point in time. So if the mom is out of town on business when she returns to work and cannot pump or whatever, that would be convenience. So people worry sometimes when they tell me, I have switched, I'm not breastfeeding anymore, or they don't want to tell me. It's like, you have to be comfortable with what you are doing in your life. I can tell you the pros, and certainly I do encourage breastfeeding if there's any way, but I don't know your lifestyle. I have 4 children. You do not know how I fed my children, or how long, or anything, but they're wonderful adults. So being a wonderful parent, environment has a lot to do. I'm not going to breastfeeding, obviously, but there are just some people who may have had a history too, you know, medical history or a social history that they cannot put a baby to breast. Some other benefits, flexibility, because you can make a bottle. Problem is you have to refrigerate it and stuff, but you don't have to have a pump or reschedule because I have to feed at that time or pump at that time, so I can't do your class because I've got to feed the baby. You have the flexibility, and then like going out of town, like I talked about. Time and frequency formula is harder to digest than breast milk, so formula-fed babies feed less often. They usually feed every 3 to 4 hours because formula is hard to digest, and that's why they have babies that are constipated when they're on artificial milk versus breast milk, which is easily digested. So breastfed babies feed anywhere between every hour and a half to every 3 hours. So again, there's a lifestyle. Women who opt to formula feed don't have to worry about things that they eat, drink, or the medications that they're taking. Again, generally speaking, for the most part, a lot of things are compatible with breastfeeding, but you can't go out and have a wonderful night on the town and, you know, I would say you can have 1 drink. If you can't, and we metabolize it quite quickly, but if you have more than 1, don't breastfeed, wait till morning. If you can't walk, definitely don't breastfeed. Okay.
Unless you want the baby to sleep really well.
Organization, preparation, again, you kind of know there's different kinds of formula. What works best for you is it already made. You just, you know, pop off the top, put a nipple on it, or you add a little bit of water. You can get different, you know, size cans, half and half. You can do powder, so you can be prepared for what you need. When my grandson was almost a year old, in traveling, it was much easier for me. Obviously, I couldn't breastfeed him because it was my grandson. I could have went through all of that stuff, but that's not part of our talk. But I got the ones where you did. You just unscrewed the top and you put a nipple on. It was much easier for traveling for me with him when I did. So you know what you need when you need it. You do have to have, this is a challenge, this is a clean water source. You know, if there's been a hurricane and stuff, you may not have clean water, and we don't think about that. And that's when this t-shirt came out, the 10 top reasons to breastfeed, is about the Katrina time. They were really encouraging people to breastfeed if it wasn't too far into the postpartum period, even if they were bottle feeding, to switch to breast because they didn't have a clean water source. You have to have bottles, nipples, refrigeration, kind of advanced notice if you're traveling. Sometimes you don't have advanced notice. You know, you're not from the area and you have a death in the family or something unexpected happen. You have to have this, be able to take the stuff with you, be prepared. And again, it's like hurricanes and stuff too. Formula lacks the antibodies that are found in breast milk. Breast milk, when you are exposed to something that makes you ill, you were exposed probably 2 weeks ago. And the mom's body is making the antibodies against whatever she was exposed to, and you can't find that in manufactured milk. So there's some of the challenges. Again, organization can be a good thing, and it may not necessarily be a good thing. All right, challenges continue. There's expense. Anybody look at how expensive artificial milk is? It's very expensive. And then if your baby is allergic to anything within it, and sometimes physicians, when they're dealing with babies, they don't know, what else to put it on, what is it, so they'll switch to a different formula, and those are even more expensive. Gas and constipation in formula-fed babies, as I mentioned earlier, because it's harder to digest. Sometimes they really have to work on those groups, and you can tell, and they're uncomfortable. And again, you can't match the complexity of breast milk. They've tried, but breast milk is ever changing. They just can't keep coming up with the exact that what mom makes. The environment. Where are all the cans going from the artificial milk?
Garbage.
To the landfill, and then we worry about the landfill. With breastfeeding, there really isn't that many supplies. You got them right there. Unless you're pumping and bottle feeding, but you just don't throw away the bottles, get rid of the bottles until you're done with having children. So the expense of the environment isn't the same breast and formula. Again, the mom has to always be sure she has enough. With the weather that we've had, do you really want to be running out? Just in, drop of a hat to get more if you've run out, or someone forgot to pick it up on their way home from work, and forgot to put gas in the car, and just enough to get to the gas station. And then there's always the guilt. If I don't breastfeed my baby, my friends who are out breastfeeding, you take that on yourself. You'll actually do that even if when you breastfeed at the end, when you're finished breastfeeding. Obviously you taper down usually. Baby slows down, but you'll still, gee, I wish I could continue to breastfeed. There's other people who don't, like I said. People can go on to breastfeed for 4 or 5 years. We have a lot of closet feeders. You would not, it'd surprise you to know how many people truly do breastfeed for an extended period of time. But again, there is benefits. So all of that has to be taken into consideration when you're choosing how you're going to feed your baby. Questions or comments? Anybody have? Yes.
I have one question, because you said the breast milk is ever changing. What about the women who, like you hear about in New York, they pump their own breast milk and then they sell it to another baby? So would that even really be that beneficial for that baby if they're in a different stage?
It is still beneficial because it's still better than the alternative. It still can't be duplicated like the formula can. And that's right. I have yet to hear of breast milk that's been recalled, yeah, breast milk. Formula, by the time they recall formula, something horrible has happened. So you will find a lot of, they used to have wet nurses. So it still benefits the person. And with that, you do have to have a lot of planning too. So there is the planning in there, and there's expense, but then the baby's still healthier, still getting what it needs. It may be, yes, not exactly, but is formula. Does that help you? Okay. Yes.
What process did wet nurses have to go through in order to have their breast produce milk? Let's say the mother didn't want to breastfeed, but they hired someone to breastfeed their child.
It's usually a person who had already had a baby and was breastfeeding and just continued. It's supply and demand by that point in time. Back when we had wet nurses, it was really for the wealthy. And the person came and lived with them. It was basically a job. We didn't have all the HIPAA concerns, all of the blood and body fluid issues. We didn't have all the agencies. So we also didn't know or talk a lot about diseases. So when wet nurses were around, we didn't have the regulation like we have now. And now, in order to get donor human milk, it has to be processed through a milk bank. You will find people going online and selling their breast milk, or with a neighbor selling their breast milk, and it's not gone through that process. And I promote the milk banks because they're safer. I may know you very well, but after we leave here, I don't know what you're doing. So you may have a disease. So that's why the processed milk. And we do have milk banks, and it's very expensive, but that's available for babies who need it, like in NICUs and stuff like that. So the regulation wasn't there, and it's supply and demand by that point in time. And women just went from baby to baby, home to home.
Would it take a while for, you just said that they were already nursing. So I guess that you really couldn't have someone just, I heard someone say that if you have a baby latch on to a breast, after a certain number of days, I think they will start producing milk for the baby, right?
It all depends. If you're thinking, okay, my baby's 29 years old, I'm just going to go out and start breastfeeding somebody's baby. There's a lot more than that. The hormones and yes. Now, people who adopt babies can breastfeed their babies. It takes some planning. It does take some planning. So, but usually the wet nursing was known in advance, and it was the person who continued to breastfeed and was paid for it. So, answer all?
They got it.
All right. Any other comments or questions on the benefits or challenges of breast or of formula? So we'll move on to breast.
I knew someone that sold their breast milk to, you probably don't really know this, to bodybuilders online.
There was a case too about this young woman who couldn't tolerate any form of feeding, so she had to be given breast milk. For her lifetime. And they're using breast milk in cancer studies and stuff like that. It's amazing how powerful it is, but they're doing a lot of studies on breast milk for other things. You'll hear people, some of the stuff they can't endorse, so I have to go with, rules. But people say you might be a pink eye, squirt a little bit of milk in there, and seriously? Okay, the benefits of breast milk. It's free. Right. If you've seen the price of formula. You guys having the breast time? Okay, perhaps. If we get through these slides, I have a whole bag of candy. We're going to have fun. About that, so. All right, so breast milk is free. It's there, it's ready, it's warm. You don't have to worry about it. Most laws protect a woman has a right to breastfeed anywhere that she has a right to be. If you're on my property and you're breastfeeding, hey, go for it. If you're on my neighbor's property, they may not like it. That's personal property, not public. They may say, you know, can you go somewhere else to do that? They have that right. But in a public place, there are laws to protect you. And a lot of times, you'll hear in the news that so-and-so was in a restaurant or somewhere and was asked to cover up or leave, and Lady League steps in and does a nice little demonstration, so most people don't want to mess with that. But anyway, you can feed your baby at any time. It's all right there ready as long as you've maintained your volume. Again, we talked about the antibodies passed on, ear infections, diarrhea, respiratory infections, goes on and on and on. Breastfed babies are healthier, moms are healthier. Actually, moms have less female cancers the longer they breastfeed. My mother-in-law passed away of breast cancer. My daughter knows, and that for that specific reason, that's one of the reasons, but she wants to breastfeed her babies because the more you breastfeed, collectively, I have 4 kids, when you add them all up together, that's protection that you can't purchase. When you've been diagnosed with breast cancer, it's too late. You can't go back and say, can I really do? I breastfeed my kids. So that's some of the things for protecting babies. Babies, less ear infections, diarrhea, respiratory, on and on and on. You can go for days. And again, it protects from allergies. If you breastfeed, you stay away from allergens that are popular in your family. There's less chance that your baby will have allergies, has diabetes. They're smarter. Less hospitalization than formula-fed babies. Just like even missing a day of school here. You miss a day of school, man, you're far behind. Well, because your baby's healthier, you won't miss 2 days, and you'll stay right up, with the group. So that's also a good reason. Easing and digestion, we talked about that when we were talking about the formula. It's the whey and protein, or the whey and casein ratio that makes it so easy to digest, and that's ever-changing too, the whey and casein. Babies poop a lot in the first 6 weeks, and then mom's milk changes and the pooping slows down. So again, ever-changing and easily digestible. 500 calories per mom a day. So you burn it by breastfeeding, just sitting there holding the baby at breast. Woohoo! Be a wonderful thing. And it's, again, different tastes. Your baby, when you're pregnant, your amniotic fluid does take on some of the flavors of what you're eating. So your baby's already used to your diet. When you're breastfeeding, your breast milk takes on some of that flavor too. So it's ever different tasting for the baby. Think about formula. Same taste. Every day. Every meal. Okay, so when breastfed babies are introduced to solids, they take solids a little bit better than formula-fed babies because they've had that variation. And the old school was, oh well, now that you're breastfeeding, you can't have, spicy food or gassy food. Why not? Mexican mothers eat Mexican food and they breastfeed. Mothers in India eat their food and they breastfeed. You digest it. It's not like you're eating broccoli and cauliflower and it's coming out your breast to the baby. Oh, one of the risks too, I don't know if I said it, of bottle feeding is obesity. And I'm going to just send this around. This is our stomach capacity at certain times. And the adult, you and I, stomach capacity is a softball. When was the last time that you sat down to have just a softball portion at a meal? So, yes, obesity is way up there. It's pretty interesting to look at that. Benefits for the mom, we kind of talked about some of this stuff that she has the milk, the right milk for that baby at that point in time, and again, lowers her risk of female cancers, high blood pressure and diabetes and all that. Heck, I would give up my blood pressure medicine. I would love to. It's expensive over time, plus the other diseases that you can possibly get. They get less work, miss less work, like I said, less healthcare expense, which ultimately trickles down to you and I paying for our health insurance because they're healthier, making less claims. We all benefit from it. So encourage the person next to you to breastfeed, okay? Because that ultimately helps us in paying our premiums for our health insurance. Also, at work even, people, oh man, she's going to pump again, especially look at nursing, being away from your patients. But if you think about it, if she doesn't go and pump, which is just a temporary thing, while the baby's breastfeeding, say a year or two, then she's going to miss less work, so I won't have to pick up her patient load. So me being selfish, honey, you go ahead and pump, because I know that you're not going to be ill and your baby's not going to be ill, so you'll be here, and I won't have to pick up your patient load, I won't have to distribute it. So you can look at it as you're supporting breastfeeding, or you're just selfish and don't want to cover taking an extra patient. I want to believe that you're supporting the breastfeeding mom, of course. Challenges. Like
It's
just
done
turn-
that for, they did fix that one though, didn't they?
No.
No?
Yeah,
They weren't
it is.
crazy yesterday.
It's not doing it today, though.
One of the biggest thing that moms worry about is having enough and pain. And if you help that mom in the first couple weeks, if she's having issues, and we follow up with phone calls at home, we give you our card, we encourage you to call us. Whatever we need to do to help you have a good experience, that's what we're out to do, is help you have a really good experience and be role models and pass on the word, so that you don't have to worry about this. But that's one of the, people even worry more about having enough volume and pain with breastfeeding than they do about labor. But there's people out there to support you, just like me. And Lily, Judy, there's plenty of support out there, and that's what you want to do, is surround yourself with supportive people. But sometimes it can be a challenge, especially the first couple days when babies are so sleepy and they need frequent feedings. Breast milk is easy to digest, like I told you. They may eat every 1 to 3 hours, and that can be a challenge. Diet, again, like I said, there's very few things that you cannot have. But some people are afraid. I had a mom last week who, she took something for pain, and she had the baby formula fed in the nursery because no one had told her it was okay to take that pain medication. Now you'd think on a maternity unit, we would have informed her, but that's what she thought, is, oh my goodness, if I take this, I can't breastfeed, and had the baby formula fed. So within those first couple of days, by giving the baby the bottle, it can throw things off into a tizzy. Breast surgeries, augmentations, and reductions can also be a challenge. Usually it's the reductions, but the longer from the time of the reduction, 10 years and more, we tend to have better experiences with, that there is more. With reductions, it takes time to figure out, is she going to be able to exclusively breastfeed or just partial? So sometimes it can be iffy. It depends on, even doctors think that you'll be able to breastfeed. Oh, don't worry about this. You don't want to have an augmentation or a reduction. But the doctor says it's going to be okay. Well, it might not be. It depends on what's disrupted where. So it's something to take into consideration if you're not finished having babies. Questions on benefits or challenges of breastfeeding? This is just a thing that I like. I know it says 1991, but it still holds true. If you have a product out there to feed, immunize everyone born on Earth, wherever they may be, that it was available, no storage, no special delivery, could help you plan your family somewhat, reduce your risk of cancers. Imagine that world, refuse to use it. So, okay, we're talking about breast milk, yes. That's what this is pointing at. And then people choose not to use it. the dream product, again, is human breast milk available to all of us at birth, yet we're not all using it. I'm not. I mean, gosh, we come out with a tablet, we've got to have a tablet, and we come out with, you know, these wonderful things. Breast milk is a wonderful thing. Very beneficial, as you can see, to baby. You have to do what you're most comfortable with. If you're going to be tense and not be able to let down, you may have to do some internal searching to teach yourself some relaxation. You say, look, I just don't want to breastfeed. That is your choice. You have to choose what's best for you and your family in that particular situation. Again, being a lactation consultant, I support breastfeeding. I support moms and dads supporting breastfeeding families. I think it's wonderful if you can provide the best breast for your baby, either way. See, this looks like I have to go out. This is the one I had to go out, or did it work? Is it just separate? Yeah, it is, but I think they. Sorry about it.
Oh, the bottom's down.
Sorry about I couldn't get this on the right way. But this actually is one of our employees' daughters. This is actually taken a couple of years ago already with Kinsey's.
This is your PEDS instructor's little kid. First one. Now she's on number 3.
So sorry that you have to turn your head. No matter what, didn't I start out this way, but it's always.
What are you feeding the baby? Are you feeding your baby breast milk? Good girl. Is she hungry?
See how she just like slides down in the right position?
Aww.
Isn't that sweet? Did everybody see it okay? Hear okay? Thank you for supporting. Well, we have one more thing before we do this. We have to do the candy thing. Is there anyone who's a diabetic in here? Okay.
Yeah.
What?
Not yet. We're gonna make them diabetic before nursing school's over.
Okay. Well, I
Job
just wanted
security.
to catch the real diabetic.
There's a serious topic.
I'm going to give you something out of my goodie bag, and then I need you to read it aloud, please. I want to do this, you guys. Show everybody we got.
Whoppers. You don't need Whoppers to breastfeed. You can have my size to breastfeed.
They say you can have nipples on a chest wall, but I don't give them one.
I got two. Breast milk is very sweet. Babies love the taste.
9 out of 10 babies agree.
I have a donut. You don't want any holes in your baby's nutrition. Mom provides 100% what baby needs exclusively for the first 6 months.
I've added some.
I have them on video.
I have gum.
What kind of gum?
Ice.
Ice.
Stinking ice. Don't worry about a cooler and ice when you go out. Breast milk is always ready to eat.
I have a pen that says breastfeeding, the original fast food.
Remember that?
You're at indoor couples, you burn 300 to 500 calories daily with breastfeeding, enjoy that trouble.
Right. Yeah.
That's crazy.
There's a new one.
Lottery tickets? Are you willing to take a chance with your child's nutrition? Breast milk has never been recalled.
That's a winner.
If it's a winner, yes.
If it's a winner, we reimburse Mary Jean for the chance.
That's a lot of money I can't eat.
You're gonna make 3 musketeers. All you need is mom, milk, and baby.
Mike and best food for your baby.
Take a hold of that one.
Milky Way, feed your baby the Milky Way. That's pretty funny.
M&M's, the more you milk, the more milk you make and move, the more milk you will have.
I'm gonna make him
M&Ms.
move and make that move. Move and make that move. All right. Wait, juicy fruit?
Juicy fruit, oh so juicy, the fruit mom can offer her baby.
All right. Is there anybody here that likes good and plenty?
I like copious amounts.
Like, I should save this one for you?
Milk duds. Nursing duds are very cute and discreet for breastfeeding.
So, I mean, if you have the chance that you may like good and plenty.
Good and plenty is a good choice to breastfeed. There are plenty.
All right, let's see. Well, then pass it out and I'll give you something else. Go ahead and you can read that one. Well, no, let her read it and I'll.
Payday, breast milk is free. It's like having an extra.
Extra payday.
Oh, it says payday on the back.
Breastfeeding and Affordable Care Act.
And it,
That was pretty good.
yeah, it's an Affordable Care Act. Plus, in the Affordable Care Act, insurances are help paying for pumps. So, when you become pregnant, you contact your insurance company and they'll tell you what to do. So it's one of those, finally, insurance pays the wonderful things. That one's it's kind of tricky. These are gold, little gold
Oh, okay.
coins.
Gold. Colostrum is gold colored. It's the gold standard.
Lifesavers, studies show breastfeeding helps to protect against SIDS.
Like saving. Okay. Reese peanut butter cups.
Peanut butter cups, some things just go together. Mom and baby. I didn't get one. I love Reese.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just jumped right over you. Let's see. Something good for you.
Patty, when you lactate, your breast temperature can help you to warm your body or your baby up, especially immediately after delivery.
Your breast temperature can change a couple degrees to match what your baby needs. So when your baby's born and they do the kangaroo care, put the baby on one side. If the baby is hot, the breast temperature will fall a couple degrees. If the baby is cold, the breast temperature will go up. If you have twins, yes, it's true. If one's hot, one's cold, that breast, the baby that's on that breast will change for that baby. So kangaroo care is really great. I apologize.
It's okay.
All right.
I have the silly questions. And I don't want to take up too much time, but you said that like if you were breastfeeding a newborn and then you got pregnant and you have a 1-year-old that you're breastfeeding and you said the body can go back and forth, how does it know what baby you just put up there?
No, your milk will change back to what that the newest baby needs, but there'll be enough volume.
Gotcha. I'm like, because I had a hard time wrapping my
Yeah,
head around that one.
and you only can breastfeed through pregnancy if you're not high risk.
Okay.
Okay, but yes, I'm sorry if I didn't get that. So it goes back to whatever the first baby needs, the youngest baby needs, but there's enough for both.
Okay. I'm like, wow, we really are.
Extra, breast milk has extra immunological properties that formula can't match.
Gee, you like peppermint patty? She got a peppermint patty.
Save a minute. Breast milk is free.
Is that fun to Mindy? Here's another new one I didn't have last time. Oh no, it's missing. Oh, it's on there. It just blends in. They're snow caps.
Snow caps, when the trees, mountains, and streets are snow capped, all the food you need for your baby is right there.
baby.
Did you hear that one, Mindy? That's a new one too.
What was it? I'm sorry.
Rolos.
During the night, all you have to do is roll over to feed your baby.
Okay.
Raising that, start raising your baby the best way with human milk.
Okay, some of you guys have smaller things here, all right? I'll give you a second one. All right, and now we already had M&Ms, but there's another one. All right, this is Mounds. Yeah. You guys hear that? What? She got Mounds. What are you using your Mounds for? Who else got a smaller one? Do you want to switch?
I'll show you.
You don't like that? You can give that to someone else in there. I'll give you two to read aloud.
Sticker. No stickers about it. Trust is best.
Who else got a smaller one?
Cookies and cream. Mom eats a cookie, baby gets the cream, yum.
Just in case you don't really care for them. This is a long one. It's pink Tic Tacs.
Breastfeeding your baby can potentially add time to your life. It says clock, life, and pregnancy. Breastfeeding decreases the mother's risk for ovarian and breast cancer as well as protects bone cancer.
So tick-tock, tic-tac, your clock, and the pink for breastfeeding. I've got two more. Who would prefer something different?
Brandon, you want something different?
No, I got gum.
Well, the last two are gum, so. There you go. She's got extra.
You don't need to carry extra supplies, Mom is all you need.
Okay, he's got free day.
Free dent. Breastfeeding helps to facilitate proper dental and jaw development.
My daughter wonders what I'm doing at night. I'm up and I'm cutting and taping and buying candy. And so I really appreciate you letting me be here today.